I don't ever want to be on the other side of a questioning session by Glynis Breyten. This is not an ordinary member of Parliament. We've got to understand that Glynis has been and was a top prosecutor, a top investigator before entering politics. So when this matter of Thembi Simelane broke, I knew that when that goes to Parliament and it goes to question time, she better be prepared. Now, can I quickly tell you, Glynis 1, Thembi 0. The absolute scenario where a Minister of Justice, and this is the crux, Chris, this is no ordinary minister. Not that the other ministries in this country don't count. But I want to put it out there because I saw it happen in many countries, and in specifically Zimbabwe, where I was present, as you know, for a period of time. Zim collapsed, not because of the taking of land, not because of the injustices. Zimbabwe fell when the judiciary started to become 100% captured by the state. This is a fact. And what we are seeing in this country is an absolute disregard, a disrespect of the Department of Justice and the judiciary. So I'm saying on the political side, I think we've got a lot to be worried about when the Minister of Justice is trying to explain that she never took money from VBS, but that she actually got a loan from the company that orchestrated the loan of more than 300 million of a municipality into VBS. And when she's asked, but you were the executive mayor, the buck stops with you, you're at the top of the pyramid. These were the questions from Glynis. That minister turned and then offered the following absolute trivial excuse and said, in hindsight, I now know that this was a problem. In hindsight. Well, in hindsight, pak jou tassies and trek vir haar. Because it's just getting into a deeper scenario where she does not understand that the buck did stop with her. And this is the Minister of Justice. So the questions from Glynis was absolutely straightforward. And in my opinion, not one of them at this moment, Chris, answered so that we could have relief. Unfortunately, in her debate, more questions popped up than answers to the citizenry of this country.
In another fight for justice, the Democratic Alliance's urgent challenge to the designation of former Judge John Hlophe before the Judicial Service Commission is now being heard by the Western Cape High Court, Neil. Of course, he is an MP.
Sure, there's another showdown. I mean, if you watched it like I do, you see that attempt of Dalium Pofu, who, might I say, and I will take him on them, does not always work on the basis of the judiciary, but actually is just a rude human being. The way that man speaks in court, the way that he addresses his fellow colleagues, these learned friends, and the way that he treats that judge with contempt, in the sense of just being a person that gets up and spews rude heresy. I mean, being rude is one thing. Formulating justice is another thing. This is not a very light matter. We have an impeached judge president of the Western Cape that was removed and found not fit to act as a judge, who now goes to a level of public process, becomes a parliamentarian for MK, and then they put him on the Judiciary Commission. I mean, Chris, dit is wolf skaapwagter. This is taking a wolf and actually telling it you've got to preside over the sheep. I mean, are we the only people that finds this crazy? So I do support the fact, no matter if it's the DA or anybody else, to try and say that we cannot have an impeached judge now preside over the selection of future judges. This just doesn't make sense. It isn't common sense. And I absolutely hope that the people that are sitting on the bench will look at this and say they agree. We cannot have this. It's another huge curse on the judiciary, and we have to keep the independence of the judiciary in this country if that's the only thing that we must defend. It is the fact that we have a justice system that must and will be independent.
Yeah, guys, so that was Nell De Beer blazing hot on the case, the VBS case now that's actually strangling Justice Minister Simelane, especially in terms of carrying out her functions in South Africa as Justice Minister. And also the case of the urgent interdict by the DA against Dr. John Schloppe, trying to stop him from interviewing the next candidates for judges, I think, in the Western Cape and some other provinces. And so, really heated one. You could hear all that he had to say. But for me, what's most interesting anyway is this case with, Justice Minister Simelane. She has a really unfortunate case that actually had to come up just after, assuming the ministerial position of Justice Minister. So this is a really large smear on her, portfolio and also her person as Justice Minister. But anyway, I really thought to share some really interesting news I found, especially on the Daily Maverick and also on News 24 regarding this issue and what's really been going on lately. And also, I think it's really interesting that, I will have a video here where we watch as Nell De Beer speaks about this judge, this Breitenbach. As Nell De Beer speaks in this video, Glenys Breitenbach in Parliament as she grilled this Justice Minister. You could see the point-by-point argument on how Glenys Breitenbach exposes the holes in Justice Minister Simelane's arguments and really show how, she's unable to escape the guilt, attached to the whole allegations around her VBS loan, before assuming the ministerial position as Justice Minister. But anyway, a report here says actually on the Daily Maverick, it actually argues that, the Justice Minister Thembi Simelane has refused to participate in an interview with, journalists, from VBS and News 24 who broke out this whole problem of the loan amounting to 575,000 rand that she actually took out from the VBS. And this is the same bank linked to the popular Floyd Shivambu, EFF, Malema, problem. And so this bank must have gone through so much that it's really understandable why it had to close down. It had to be closed down because there was so much that was extracted and withdrawn from that bank. Although Simelane argues, I think later on, that she paid the loan back, but you could actually imagine the crisis that the loan had to, the bank must have actually had to go through to really, support itself amidst these massive withdrawals of what many of you in South Africa call go-go's money. A lot of old people's funds, were then splattered around, irresponsibly. So that's really unfortunate, especially knowing the fact that the Justice Minister, a Minister of Justice in South Africa, had to really be involved in such a space. So it says that, Simelane has in the past 3 days allowed herself to be questioned live on air, by ENCA journalist Heidi Gyokos and also Clement Manyatela of Radio 702. And actually, in the last 4 hours, she spent 4 hours in Parliament being grilled by other MPs. I'll be playing a video you guys should really watch, because at the end of this video, you'll see Glenys Breitenbach's, really powerful indictment and really poking holes into this case so that you understand in detail how the whole problem with the VBS loan by Simelane might spiral into something larger and maybe force her to resign from her position. But anyway, the journalists at Daily Maverick actually went ahead to reveal that Justice Minister Simelane actually took an alleged loan of 575,000 rand from Gundo Wealth Solutions, which is a company that this whole thing happened in 2016. Gundo Wealth Solutions is a company, right, whose director, was called something called a VBS fixer. So it appears that, these guys work within the bank that will probably, they try to work as front companies that handle some of these VBS transfers and all that. So through Gundo Wealth Solutions, which was a company whose director here argues his name is Ralium Razwinane, Justice Minister Simelane received a loan of 565,600 rand through Gundo Wealth Solutions. All right. Now, the report argues that days before the loan, Polokwane municipality, from which Simelane, Justice Minister Simelane now was mayor, it actually said that, the municipality made first of 5 investments with VBS. All right. Now, it says that Justice Minister Simelane used this money, this loan now, 575,600 rand, right? After taking this loan from Gundo Wealth Solutions, she was mayor of Polokwane municipality. It would be expected, probably she would have invested in some infrastructural issue or infrastructural lapse in the municipality. But here the report says that she actually used that money, the loan, to purchase a coffee shop, which is called Sylvanas, and this coffee shop is in Santon. So that's actually where this whole thing exploded, right? Because it then became a question of why the necessity or the need to purchase a coffee shop with a loan, so to speak, and knowing the fact that she was a public officer at the time. And this is something public officers do not understand. Gaten McKenzie has been speaking about it lately, that public money is not mafia money. Public office is not a mafia office. Everything you do as a public officer, you are accountable to the public. In fact, the public actually are the ones who are funding your salary through the taxpayers, okay? So you have to be responsible in your actions as a public officer. So for Justice Minister Simelane to have taken such a loan to buy a coffee shop in Santon, I think that was really questionable, and probably she wasn't really thinking about the implications of that action in 2016. But now this is 2024, and then we are seeing this unravel. Those of us who are Christians, you understand this saying that they say that there's nothing that is hidden that will not be revealed. And it's really scary to be a public officer in this world, in the nation state today, as it's been, set up, especially in Africa. Although many things in Africa many public officers escape many of these issues, but in this case, Justice Simelane here she really would have to dance to the tune of this, I suspect, because this case would not go underground easily. But anyway, the report says that Simelane, she actually told Parliament that she had repaid 849,000 rands, right, on that loan. So the loan with its interest, she took the loan of 575,600, and now she has repaid 849,000 over 4 years. I think this was in 3 payments, she argues, that she paid between October and November in 2020. And she made the final payment in 2021. And she actually argued that she offered no proof of these payments and claimed that she received no undue benefits. Okay? So even though she claimed that she has repaid this loan, the journalists at Daily Maverick, investigative journalists, argued that there's no proof, that she didn't offer any proof that she had made these payments back. And that, and she claimed that she has received no undue benefit. There was really no proof. So in total, the report argues that Polokwane deposited 349 million rand with VBS. That's the municipality now, I believe. So the municipality deposited 349 million rand with VBS between 2016 and 2017. 2016 is the year Justice Minister Simelane took the loan of 576,600 rand from the VBS bank. But then we know here now, the report says that between 2016 and 2017, Polokwane municipality deposited 349 million rand. I suspect this is the budget problem from the central government. And it says that the full amount was withdrawn prior to the bank's collapse in 2018. causing an extensive looting by the bank's management and fixers, and also ANC and EFF politicians. All right. Now, he then argues that, this guy, the, global wealth, if I can get that name correctly, Gundo Wealth Solutions, the company director, who's Razwinane, today he's actually facing charges of corruption for payments that he received from VBS in connection with the Polokwane deposits. All right. And he says that Razwinane was actually paid commissions, effectively called success fees, for securing the deposits. Now, prosecutors actually labeled these payments that as corrupt. They were really corrupt, in that regard. So to have the justice minister in South Africa be involved in all of this, I think it's a really big problem. So anyway, it argues that in Simlane's initial responses to these whole allegations and questionings, she actually maintained that the loan agreement was above board, and she denied that there was any conflict of interest between her position as Justice Minister with the oversight of the National Prosecuting Authority, which is pursuing charges against several VBS corruption cases. So according to her, the fact that the whole cloud of VBS problems now facing that actually might have been one of the reasons that actually caused the move of Floyd Shivambu from the EFF to the MK party, but also Jacob Zuma is also involved in this, and also some ANC officials, and now the Justice Minister Simelane, who probably might have been one of those ANC officials that were not mentioned in Matodzi's affidavit for the VBS scandal. She actually argues now, from her perspective, that they really, the case with the VBS doesn't really have a conflict of interest with her position as Justice Minister. So it appears that she's not processing the scale of this problem as it should be, because naturally in many societies around the world, this kind of issues usually lead to immediate resignation by the justice minister themselves. Okay, so this is why I think that probably we'll see how this whole case unfolds to help us understand the kind of society South Africa is. But anyway, I'm not surprised, because also in my country, Nigeria, there are many of these issues that happen, and Africans need to really start understanding and standing up to demand good governance and justice in their own territories. Okay. But anyway, this report now says that Justice Minister Simelane is still responding to questions. She actually says that there is absolutely no relationship between the transaction for the purchase of Silvana's coffee shop and any of the VBS transactions. All right. The minister also she's actually still staying committed to the practice of ethical leadership, and she argues that she welcomes legitimate scrutiny into her affairs, including her private business affairs. So she's really open. She says, go ahead, keep investigating. There's really nothing to be found, and so that's the state in which we find this Simlane's case now at the moment. It still argues that, Simelane, she's actually not available for interviews with these journalists. She's really taking it slow at the moment. It argues that, she has not, however, made publicly any loan agreement with Gundo. She has not provided proof of repaying that loan, even though she argues that she has repaid that loan. She has not provided proof. There's no proof, with that, according to the investigative journalist here. And also, in her interview with Gyokos at ENCA, Simelane actually says that it is difficult for a person who looks like me to get a loan in the South African economy. It is difficult to get a loan and start a business as an African child without any form of assistance. There are so many bright dreams and ideas that Black young people have, but there's no financing for them. So the report also goes on to say, so that's her thinking. That's the way she's processing this whole problem. So as, mayor of Polokwane at the time, it appears probably her salary wasn't enough to, get into some form of business and all that. So she had to acquire a loan to bolster up, the coffee business that she probably had in mind to set up and all that. But anyway, that's the perspective I hear now from her arguments. The report goes on to say that Simelane appears to have invoked the real struggle of historically undermined people to receive banking loans as a defense of why she was caught being an ultimate beneficiary of the VBS loot. And then the reporters at Daily Maverick are also arguing that, nonetheless, public available deeds office records show that Simelane was the beneficiary of at least 2 home loans offered by 2 commercial banks between 2007 and 2010. And that by 2016, Simelane had been the Polokwane mayor for 2 years at a salary of between almost 920,000 Rand in 2014 to 1,030,000 Rand in 2016. So that was quite a huge amount. I don't know, not huge, but probably in comparing to other mayors in the West. But anyway, I think her salary, this is in 2014, she earned 920,000 Rand. I don't know if probably could this be monthly, but anyway, it argues here that as Polokwane mayor for 2 years, her salary laid between 920,000 Rand in 2014 to 1,030,000 Rand in 2016, according to data from the Limpopo Treasury website. Okay, now in trying to really go through, to understand this whole issue, the report finally argues that she's yet to account. Justice Minister Simelane is yet to account to President Cyril Ramaphosa, who, in the wake of this reporting now, actually requested a report from her on this matter. And she says that Justice Minister Simelane is also facing an investigation by the public protector following complaints filed by Action SA and the DA. So the Action SA and the DA are really pushing that she has to face the full force of the justice system in South Africa, and probably she might even have to step down for a while and to all that. But anyway, one thing I thought that would really go through really quickly so we can deeply understand the magnitude of the holes in the argument and this whole case from the perspective of Justice. I don't know. I think I know she was a former Justice Minister anyway. Glenis Breitenbach. She has a really very brilliant and deep interrogation in poking holes and breaking down the arguments of Justice Minister Simelane in this whole case. I thought that it would be really nice to watch that as she grilled the Justice Minister in Parliament and help us understand deeply some of the problems with this whole VBS, attachment to the Justice Minister, and then make our final conclusion. So let's watch that, and then I'll be back to round up this video.
My first question, Minister, is as the Mayor of Polokwane, what was your involvement in making investments? I understand that there's a structure there, there's a municipal manager, there's people who do the finances and make decisions, but as the Mayor, the buck stops with you really for everything. And so how involved were you, and how much did you know about investments in general, and in this one in particular? Then, bearing in mind that you're the Mayor and that you have the buck stops with you, I'm making the assumption that you then know quite a lot about what goes on in the municipality, that you make it your job to understand what's happening, and more particularly with the finances. It's important. And so you would have known about this this investment at VBS. And my question is really this. VBS is not a normal bank, it's a mutual bank, or was a mutual bank, in which municipalities were not authorized to invest. And you do, in your statement, make mention of other investments, Standard Bank, Nedbank, ABSA, investing. Those are proper banks, not a mutual bank. And you were not entitled as the municipality to make investments in a mutual bank. So the investment itself is unlawful. You also say that Ganda Wealth Solutions is not a typical contractor in the strict sense of the word, in that the municipality did not pay them for their services rendered. Well, that may or may not be so, I don't know. I accept what you're telling me. What is clear from the analysis of the money is that they were certainly richly remunerated by VBS for garnering investments and made a vast amount of money for doing very little, also paid huge kickbacks. And that's not in dispute. Huge kickbacks to the people who made the investments. So the whole scheme was a cynical, sick and dodgy scheme to defraud the poorest of the poor people, particularly in Limpopo, and is unconscionable. So Ganda is not a charitable organization that does things because of their love of advancing the cause of South Africans. They did it to make dodgy money, and they made dodgy money, and lots of it. Now, it's the dodgy money that's the problem, because all of their money was dodgy money, and you were the recipient of some of that dodgy money. So, you know, my question to you is, why do you say that because they were not paid, they were not a typical contractor? Of course they were. They were just paid elsewhere. And that being the position then, why did you seek personal financial advice from an entity that was in fact doing business with the municipality of which you were the man? The head honcho, the top of the pyramid, where the buck stopped with you, and they knew it. So of course they'd be happy to accommodate you because you've seen what kind of investments were being made for them and the benefits that they accrued from those investments. So there is a conflict of interest. And my question is, why did you not see it? Why did you approach them for advice? They're also styled as Ganda Wealth Solutions, Ganda Wealth Management. Who knows what they were and what they did. But what they were not was a registered service provider or a registered financial services provider. And so they were, in fact, not able to just give loans in the normal course of their business. It wasn't the normal course of their business. Very few loans were made. Lots of kickbacks were paid. All of the stolen money was, you know, dissipated. Very few loans were made. Yours was one of the very few. So why would you have negotiated a loan with an entity doing business with your municipality who was not a registered financial services provider? And did you, at any stage, attempt to get a arm's length, proper, ordinary commercial loan from a bank? Your own bank, wherever you banked. Sure, you would have been able to get a loan from your own bank. Why did you get a loan from them? What was so attractive about doing business with Ganda, particularly bearing in mind the extortionate, really extortionate, if your figures are correct in paragraph 27 of your statement, of the interest on a loan of 575,600, you paid interest of 274,399. That's practically 50%. And in fact, it works out to 47%. 47% interest on a loan that in the bigger scheme of things is not even huge. Why would you enter into such a one-sided transaction when you could have gone to a real bank and gotten a real loan at a real interest rate? It makes no commercial sense whatsoever, none. And so it makes the whole transaction, forgive me, look exceptionally suspicious. Also, the timing thereof is exceptionally suspicious. Money flows from the municipality to VBS, money flows from VBS to Ganda, money flows from Ganda to the purchase of the coffee shop, all in the space of a very short period of time. It may be a coincidence, but in a long time of operating in the criminal justice system, I've learned to be very suspicious of a confluence of coincidences. And normally, they point to trouble. And I see no reason to have less suspicion about this entire matter. So if you could help me with that. I'm also then interested in the name of the investment group, T5 Investment Group. Where did the name come from? Was it a shelf company? And if not, what does the T5 stand for? Your name is Tembi. Is it related to you somehow? Have you got 5 investment companies? Is that what the 5 is for? I would be interested to know more about the name. Then I'll move off of that subject because I'm sure that my colleagues have questions and will cover it, but I must deal with the glaring current conflict of interest that certainly exists, whether you want to see it or not, Minister, with respect. That certainly exists between yourself and the National Prosecuting Authority. We all remember, some of us more painfully than others, the demise of Mr. Advocate Vusi Pikoli as the National Director of Public Prosecutions when Jackie Selebi was prosecuted, and he wouldn't back down. He was instructed to not proceed with the prosecution by the Minister of Justice. He refused to do that because Vusi Pikoli is an honorable man. And he lost his job because of it, much to the absolute destruction of the NPA. Because what happened at the NPA after Mr. Pikoli left could not have happened while he was there. And I think we all know that, and I think you know that too. And he was fired then because there was this supposed breakdown of a relationship between himself and the Justice Minister, who at the time was Minister, I think, Mabandla. Now, if it is so as you want us to believe here, that there's absolutely no possibility of a Justice Minister having any influence over the NPA, and I agree with you, there should be no such influence, and the NPA should tolerate no such influence, none. It's a non-thing, it should never be allowed, but we live in the real world, and we've seen this happen. And so it's not true that the Justice Minister does not have influence over the NPA, even if it's a very subtle influence. Of course you do. And how you choose to exercise it is, of course, up to the Justice Minister. And I've not got any reason to suggest that you've done anything untoward in that regard, and I'm not suggesting it. But perceptions, Minister, are everything. And the public and myself see the justice system as a pyramid. And there's the police, and there's the NPA, and there's the Department of Justice, and then there's you. And you sit at the top of that pyramid. And that's inescapable. It's an ineluctable conclusion that you cannot sit on top of the pyramid while a matter such as this is being investigated. Because it is being investigated. As we read this morning in the papers, the Hawks have executed search and seizure warrants in Polokwane on the office that you occupied. And they're clearly investigating, amongst other things, this transaction. And so there's an inescapable problem there. And there is a conflict of interest. And it doesn't matter how honorably you conduct yourself. It matters that perceptions are everything. And my perception, and I'm sure the perception of the public at large, is that you cannot continue to sit on the top of this pyramid while this matter is pending. So I'd like your view on that. It is a fact. And again, I want to stress this is not personal. It is a fact. It is a perception. It can't be thought away. It doesn't matter how honorably you conduct yourself. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Brady.
Yeah, so what do you think, guys? It's really sad what's really going on now with the skeletons in the cupboard that's really been discovered by many of these ministers. We know that even the president himself Cyril Ramaphosa has the case with the Pala Pala farm still hanging on his neck. That's been, you know, silenced in a way, but I know that that's going to come up someday. And another report from the Daily Maverick, and also I think from IOL, argues that many ANC ministers also have cases. I think you know, Neil De Beer has actually in a recent video spoken about this, that many ANC officers, many ANC ministers, they have charges in court that are still hanging, yet they still serve. And so it's really difficult to understand and really wonder how the justice system and other parts that make the executive and the judiciary in South Africa can survive if they've been captured in this way by many of these probably ministers, or probably the whole thing with state capture. And that's why, you know, if it goes down like this, police will be paralyzed, the courts will be paralyzed, you can't get efficient justice, you can't get efficient police protection. That's why probably we saw a lot of the delinquencies that occurred during the time of Police Minister Becky Cele, and all of that, you know, comments I saw from you guys on how South Africa has gone down the drain with Becky Cele's inactiveness as police minister and all that. So it's unfortunate what the justice minister is actually going through now, and we'll keep on following the case to see if probably she might be replaced. I don't know, but it will really be a really big blow to probably the ANC, and a really big win also for the GNU to in this whole fight for accountability and transparency in government, and also in its fight to really, you know, help South Africa rise from the deep turmoil it has found itself, both economically and politically. But anyway, I don't know, what do you guys think about this? It's been a really intense one, from Neil De Beer all the way to the report on Justice Minister Simelane to Glenys Breitenbach. But share your thoughts. Let's hear, what do you think about this whole saga? Share your thoughts in the comments.